Roe, of course, involved a woman named Norma McCorvey, pictured here, who had already had several children she had given up for adoption, and when she was pregnant on a third occasion, decided that she wanted to terminate that pregnancy. She consulted an attorney with whom she had worked on her past adoptions, who directed her to two lawyers, Sarah Weddington and Linda Coffey, who had been looking to tee up a challenge to Texas's abortion law, which, like most at the time, criminalized abortion unless a patient's life was at risk. McCorvey, of course, wanted to have an abortion, not become the plaintiff in a test case, but that is ultimately what happened and what her lawyer's interest was in seeing happen. The court in Roe ultimately held that the right to privacy recognized in Griswold and so expanded in significant decisions was broad enough to encompass a patient's decision to terminate her pregnancy. The court suggested that the decision to have an abortion was salient in similar ways to decisions to get married, to have a child, to use contraception, that these key life decisions about family and intimacy were protected from significant state interference. At some points, Justice Harry Blackmun, the author of the opinion, a Nixon nominee and himself a Republican, pointed to what he saw as the consequences for an unwanted pregnancy for a pregnant person themselves, such as the health risks of pregnancy or the stigma of unwed parenthood. But often Roe focused on the rights of physicians, suggesting that the abortion decision belonged jointly to the patient and the physician. At various points after Roe, people in fact thought that it was a right for a physician to choose abortion, not for a right for women. The court explicitly rejected the claim of fetal personhood, suggesting that the word person in the relevant parts of the Constitution applied only postnatally. And initially, Roe was less of a big deal than you would have expected. It was not the top story in the New York Times that day, although to be fair, there had just been, Lyndon Johnson had just died, so it wasn't that weird. But I don't think people understood that it was going to be as big of a deal as it was, because as Blackmun himself said at the time in his papers, he was simply doing what he thought the Constitution required, but also what the polls said, right? The polls said most people think abortion is a decision between a woman and her doctor.